Do you support the death penalty? Are you against it? Starting today, you have 15 days to make your feelings known to the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Executions have been on hold in California since 2006, when a U.S. district judge deemed the state's 3 drug method a potentially unconstitutional infliction of cruel and unusual punishment. Inmates can choose to be executed by lethal gas or legal injection. Currently, California has 697 inmates on death row. Should California have that death penalty, Matt?
I think, yes, I would agree. I mean, I have to confess to some internal soul searching in recent years about it, but I haven't come to the conclusion we should junk it. It's clear a vast majority of Californians want us to have it. And we have this backlog of criminals who've been sentenced to it. I think it's ridiculous to have nearly 700 people on death row and have it on hold because a judge has a delicate feeling about what might constitute cruel and unusual punishment, whether it's 2 or 3 injections or how you're administering the deathly poison to execute the sentence. I think we ought to move forward. And we can have a debate all we want about the justice of it, the morality of it. But I think, again, it's clear the majority of Californians are strongly in favor of it. Let's start implementing the law.
Jack?
I agree with Matt. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. I think many, if not most, Democrats oppose the death penalty. I support it. I think in certain circumstances, it's the only appropriate punishment. Just as a few minutes ago, I said, let's leave certain sentencing decisions up to a judge. When it comes to the death penalty, let's leave those decisions up to a jury. We go through these elaborate procedures. We death qualify jurors. We have a death phase of a trial. And I can tell you, as someone who used to be a prosecutor, the level of review and scrutiny that appellate courts and Supreme Courts and then federal courts later give to state death penalty cases is extraordinary. It might be too excessive for all I know, but I think the death penalty is good and sound and an appropriate punishment in some circumstances. And I think we leave those decisions up to the community by way of the jury system.
I think we're all in agreement on this one. Okay, final topic here. Yesterday, we told you about what seemed like a pretty good idea. A group of food trucks got together and created a mobile food court in Santa Monica. That was yesterday. They were there. Today, there were no trucks. Shut down by the city because the zoning language does not explicitly state food truck use. Now, we know restaurant owners on Wilshire Boulevard don't want the trucks around. Should people deal with the fact that the trucks offer an alternative and are entitled to sell food and allow their owners to make a living, Jack?
All right, look, I have a very idiosyncratic view on this because I used to be on the LA City Council, and I used to get a lot of requests for farmers markets, and I approve them. Okay, I'm pleading guilty to this. I allowed these people to set up farmers markets, but it's the same concept. When you are a flower stand at a farmers market, you don't pay insurance, you don't pay workers' comp, you don't pay taxes, you don't pay utilities. You don't have any of the fixed costs of, say, the florist on the corner who has to deal with the feast or famine of having a real business.
But don't you have to pay taxes?
Well, you don't have to pay all the myriad city regulatory fees, and you certainly don't have to pay utilities and insurance and all the other basic fixed cost startups of owning your business and renting your facility and so on and so forth. So I think with these food trucks, if someone wants them on their property, then God bless them. But in terms of them moonlighting and freeloading, I think there's a legitimate economic argument here.
Matt?
I think the city ought to make room for these. There's obviously a need for them. There's obviously demand. I mean, they set up for one day in that vacant lot, and they were the vendors ran out of food. I think in an economy like this, if you have entrepreneurs who are coming up with an idea to meet a demand for good, inexpensive food, the city, if there's a zoning issue, that's an easy thing for the city to take care of. In the meantime, why interfere with an entrepreneurial success? I understand restaurateurs complaining, but you can't. If there's a problem with the barriers of entry, let's lower the barriers of entry for everyone, not punish people who have chosen a more mobile way of providing food and providing and meeting a demand for good food that's cheap these days.
Well said. All right. Matt, Jack, terrific work. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you, Fred.